The 2018 TVR Griffith. Well, folks, the day is here. TVR has shocked the world by debuting the new TVR Griffith at the Goodwood Revival. One of the most anticipated cars of the year, the Griffith has a lot to live up to, but luckily the team responsible for this piece of rolling artwork has managed to deliver a car that resides well above our expectations and should send marques like Aston Martin and Jaguar running for the hills. Featuring a look that reminds me of an FD-gen Mazda RX-7 on steroids, the Griffith features a stunning design, a 50-50 weight distribution, a Cosworth-enhanced V-8 that's good for at least 400 ponies, and a Magnum XL gearbox that can handle as much as 700 pound-feet of torque. Its beautiful iStream architecture provided by none other than Gordan Murray, paired with that beautiful carbon composite body means we're talking about a car that isn't only exceptionally light but exceptionally strong as well and could very well push TVR beyond being the brand it once was as it steps into the ring with the big boys for the first time in nearly 2 decades. The car was presented for the very first time in launched edition spec, a model that will go for £90,000 or about $119,000 at current exchange rates. It boasts a full leather interior to go with custom wheels, a special paint selection, and a bespoke infotainment system. A good number of these have likely already been spoken for, so if you're hoping to get one of the first models that rolls off the line, you might want to get with TVR quickly, as once they are spoken for, that's it. Production is slated to start sometime in late 2018 with a total of 500 launch edition models on the bill. After that, you'll be stuck with the standard production model, which will likely go for a bit more once in production and ready to hit the streets. So, with that in mind, we should start seeing the Griffith on the street in the next couple of years, so let's talk more about this stunning masterpiece and see just what it brings to the table. Continue reading to learn more about the 2018 TVR Griffith. Exterior. If you haven't figured it out yet, TVR's first car in nearly 2 decades is as stunning as it is unique. We're talking about sharp, deliberate lines that contribute to an extreme aerodynamic presence to go with excessively muscular sides and smooth rear haunches. A menacing and muscular hood hints toward the 5.0-liter V8 that resides under the hood, while that big, wide-open grille reminds us that even inanimate objects need to breathe from time to time. In the corners of the low-slung front end, we find unique headlights that are recessed into the corners and integrated into the side intakes. A single LED unit provides light in the darkest hours, while the channels below the lights should provide a breath of fresh air to the 6-piston brake calipers that reside behind the custom wheels. Smooth cutouts in the lower corners of the fascia help channel air in the side intakes as smoothly as possible, helping to create front-end downforce alongside the small lip at the bottom of the fascia that helps to create a very small air dam in the center. A menacing and muscular hood hints toward the 5.0-liter V8 that resides under the hood, while that big, wide-open grille reminds us that even inanimate objects need to breathe from time to time. The front fenders are extremely long, reaching all the way to the front bumper as they traverse alongside the centered hood. A small lip and crease around the wheels help to emphasize those wheels, while the width of the finder provides for an attractive Viper-like vent just ahead of the front doors. It should be noted that this vent is functional and allows air to pass from the front to the rear. And, with the way the body bows out toward the rear of the doors and the rear quarters, air should easily pass alongside the body and distribute smoothly and efficiently, a nod to the car's aerodynamic prowess. Huge and deep recesses help contribute to this aerodynamic efficiency, but what's more, is the front-mounted exhaust outlets that reside just behind the front wheels, and eject all of that Cosworth-enhanced exhaust gas at a 45-degree angle from the doors. The chrome outlet provides a bit of style residing in the recessed and black side skirts. The mirrors are sleek and sexy, and also shaped just right to prevent drag at high speeds. And, if you didn't notice, there's no door handles here, which means this is one of the few production models out there with true-to-life electric door poppers from the factory. Further back on the sides we find that the car has a dominating slant in the rear that will help channel air below the rear spoiler, preventing too much downforce in the rear. The rear stationary glass is triangular and matches the overall look well, however, I wouldn't want to be forced behind those rear seats to look out of them, that's for sure, as this is a 2-seater. Clout and praise aside, the rear quarters are smooth but somehow muscular and bend slightly downward in the rear to create a sexy overhang below the rear spoiler. Sitting completely parallel to the ground, the front and rear wheel wells have just a little over an inch of clearance, so you know this baby sits low and should cut through the air like a hot knife slices through soft butter. The rear end is smooth and simple, but complicated at the same time. In the rear, the first thought that comes to mind is that this girl has quite the booty. To put it simply, the rear end is smooth and simple, but complicated at the same time. The rear quarters and rear deck bend upward and outward to create a secondary spoiler-like effect. The taillights are almost hockey stick shaped and recessed into the corners while a functional vent sits below each one to allow air to pass. The rear fascia is undoubtedly smooth and sits higher in the center, a design cue that makes way for a simple but aggressive rear diffuser. Featuring multiple low-slung fins from side to side, there's also a mesh in the corners that enhances air flow from underneath the vehicle, while the sheer smoothness of the unit is attractive. All told, this is a stunning piece of engineering and a true masterpiece, especially from a company that has been more talk than action in the last 18 years. Whether it will be successful in the market and will lead to bigger and better things remains to be seen, but with a look like this, I can't imagine anyone with the cheddar and love for true British clout to overlook such a gorgeous piece of machinery. Exterior dimensions. Interior. Open up the driver's door to take a peek inside, and you'll find yourself staring at a cabin that's luxurious but simple and more about business than fancy gizmos and extreme design. What you will find is healthy doses of Alcantara on the lower dash, steering wheel, steering column, and door trim panels. The rest of the interior, including the seats, since this is a launch edition model, are wrapped in leather and feature precise stitching that rivals that of brands like AMG, McLaren, and even Ferrari and Lamborghini. That's right, this interior is just as nice as even the big Italian names without all of the crazy over-the-top design and insane pricing to match. The steering wheel itself features a round hub that is surrounded by a ring of Alcantara. The wheel itself is actually off-center, with the side spokes sitting below the 3 and 9 o'clock positions. Ahead of the wheel sits a digital instrument cluster to provide all pertinent information like vehicle speed, engine temperature, oil pressure, etc. That's right, this interior is just as nice as even the big Italian names without all of the crazy over-the-top design and insane pricing to match. Down below the dash, you'll find black carpeting and black floor mats. All three pedals are tall and gold in color to match the rings around the buttons to the right of the steering wheel. The brake and click pedal are both mounted to the floor while the accelerator pedal hovers above the floor in typical fashion. Moving over to the center console, we can see that it sits quite high and, as such, the shifter is very short, something that will make for short, precise shifts and give the driver as sporty of a feel as possible. A cluster of buttons resides just a little further back and remind me of something inspired by motorsport, while the center stack area gets 3 control knobs for various features before leading the way into the bespoke infotainment system. Circular HVAC vents apprise the dash in the usual places, while the passenger side of the dash itself is rather bland outside of the leather and Alcantara appointments. As it currently stands, TVR didn't release any other images of the interior that show off the seats of the area behind them. It's safe to assume there's a minimal amount of cargo room back there, but when it comes to the seats, the small corner of the driver's seats leads me to believe that they aren't very supportive. Perhaps the seat backs have stronger bolsters, but it looks like you might slide side to side a bit based on the shape of the cushion itself. The door panels are unique and classy, based on what we can see. TVR says that the interior offers ample headroom and cabin space even as a two-seater, and says that there is more than adequate luggage and storage space. According to TVR, it's strictly a two-seater but is practical enough to be suitable for everyday use and long-distance road trips. Drivetrain. Under that muscular and sexy hood sits a 5.0-liter Cosworth-enhanced V-8. We haven't been enlightened as to exactly how much output it will deliver, but with the car weighing 1,250 kilograms (2,775 pounds) and the engine delivering 400 horsepower per ton, we can pretty much figure out the horsepower rating. At 400 horsepower per ton, we know it has at least 400 ponies. Then when you figure that 775 pounds would be 38.75% of a ton, then we can figure that 38.75% of 400 is 155, so a good estimate would be that this V8 has some 555 horsepower on tap. TVR also neglected to give up information about torque output but says that the Magnum XL 6-speed gearbox is capable of handling 700 pound-feet. You can imagine there's probably a minimum of 400 pound-feet of torque. This would also leave room for upgrades to that naturally aspirated V8 as well once the aftermarket gets their hands on it, anyway. The clutch and flywheel that mates the engine to the transmission is said to be designed specifically for the Griffith and is lighter than typical units. Combined with the dry sump system, TVR was able to mount the engine further back, hence the long nose, to create a true-to-life 50-50 weight distribution. In case you don't know, that means that you'll get the best stability possible and some great driving dynamics as well. Surely, this thing will be a blast to drive, and we can't wait to see it in action. TVR, if you're reading, please send us one. The clutch and flywheel that mates the engine to the transmission is said to be designed specifically for the Griffith and is lighter than typical units. On the chassis side of things, the Griffith makes use of what is called the iStream structure. This means that the chassis is designed from carbon composite that is bonded to steel and aluminum bits to make a lightweight but strong frame. And, because of its exquisite design, an impact from an unfortunate crash is distributed through the front and rear crash structures, which should contribute to keeping the chassis intact and preventing any type of serious body damage. Ultimately, this makes it safer all of the way around. The body of the car itself is also composed of carbon composite, which also contributes to its overall lightness. Both front and rear axles get double wishbone suspension with adjustable coilovers and concentric springs for easy ride height adjustability and general ride tuning. The Griffith features a staggered wheel layout with 20-inch units in the rear and 19-inch units up front. An electric power steering system helps make steering at both low speed and high speed a breeze, while 6-piston calipers handle the braking duties up front to go with 4-piston units tackle the rear. The front wheels get 370 mm ventilated and floating rotors, while the rear wheels get 350 mm 2-piece units. Finally, the Griffith features a staggered wheel layout with 20-inch units in the rear and 19-inch units up front. The rear wheels roll on 275 30th series tires, while the fronts get 235 35th series rubbers. ABS and a configurable traction control system come standard as required by ETA standards. Drivetrain specifications. Pricing. So far, TVR has been pretty mum about pricing for the TVR Griffith, but the launch edition, a limited run of 500 units, will sell for £90,000 or $118,819 at current exchange rates. As for pricing of the standard model, you'll have to wait a bit longer, as that information will likely come to light once the Griffith goes into production in late 2018. Until then, your guess is as good as ours, but one this is for sure, it won't be coming cheap. Competition. Aston Martin DB11. When it comes to British sports cars with Grand Tourer bodies and powerful engines hidden under long hoods, you can't go wrong with the Aston Martin DB11. Developed to replace the iconic DB9, the DB11 was created on a clean sheet of paper and features a brand new design language that will eventually spread throughout the entire Aston Martin lineup. Sportier than ever before on the outside, the DB11 combines pure British craftsmanship with a range of race-inspired features on the inside. Motivation comes from a new 5.2-liter V12, which uses a pair of turbochargers to crank out 600 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. Although significantly more powerful than the TVR, the DB11 is also heavier, which is why it needs 3.9 seconds to hit 60 miles per hour from a standing start. Top speed is in the same ballpark at 200 miles per hour. Pricing, on the other hand, is a little steep, with the DB11 retailing from £154,900 in the UK and from $211,995 in the US. Learn more about the Aston Martin DB11 here. Jaguar F-Type Svr. The F-Type Svr is more appropriate to go against the new TVR. Not only lighter, it's also a tad smaller and presumably closer to the dimensions of the T37. Essentially a beefed-up version of the already acclaimed F-Type, the Svr stands out by means of a slightly more aggressive body, custom interior features, and an upgraded 5.0-liter V8. The supercharged mill cranks out an impressive 567 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque, enabling the coupe to charge from 0 to 60 miles per hour in an amazing 3.5 seconds. This will probably make it quicker than the TVR, but I need to point out that the Svr is all-wheel drive. Top speed is rated at 200 miles per hour. Pricing-wise, the F-Type Svr fetches more than the TVR at $125,950, but it's significantly more affordable than the Aston Martin DB11. Find out more about the Jaguar F-Type Svr here. Conclusion. The last time we saw something from TVR was back in 1999 when the Tuscan was released. It was later purchased by a 24-year-old who ran the company into the ground in a matter of years. It took 7 years, but the TVR brand was eventually sold to TVR Automotive Limited in 2013, and 4 years later, we're being blessed with this masterpiece of British design. Effectively serving as shots fired at other famous marques like Aston Martin and Jaguar, there's certainly some concern to be had. If the TVR Griffith comes to market and sells as it should, and we all hope it will, TVR could be in for some serious growth over the next decade. And, designing cars like the Griffith is exactly what it needs to get the attention needed to finally see real success once again. The Griffith is by far one of the nicest cars we've seen come to market in some time, and TVR needs to get its production rolling before the hype dies down too much. The car has the style, the power, and the dominance to become a serious threat in the sports car market, and we're really hoping TVR can establish a presence in the US sometime in the future. We would certainly love to get our hands on a Griffith, but what about you? What are your thoughts on this new sports car? Would you pony up more than $100,000 to park one in your garage? Let us know in the comments section below. Love its stunning design, lightweight construction, Cosworth-enhanced V8 engine. Leave it will be pricey, US availability unknown, references. TVR Griffith. Read our full review on the previous TVR Griffith. Update history. Updated 6 May 2016, during the recent 2016 London Motor Show, TVR dropped a first teaser image for its upcoming supercar. Also, British magazine Autocar reports that the supercar could bring back the famous Griffith name.
If you liked this video, please share your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to hit the subscribe button.